Dr. Tulla, how are
Yeah.
you?
How are you, Jim? Good to see you. Good to see you, Lynn. And
Nice
of
to
course,
see
Ankit,
you.
it's always a pleasure.
It's all good.
It is always a pleasure. Yeah. So
So,
Dr.
Dr.
Tulla,
Tulla, before we start, we would like to know, are you an Apple fan or a Samsung fan?
I was just going to ask him the same question.
So, so, so I have my limitation with technology, right?
Okay.
So the problem is that I don't understand the Apple's operating systems.
Okay.
Good
So
for you.
I tried to take the apple, but I guess apple is good for eating for me only.
Well, you know, the funny thing is about the history of it was MS-DOS was the operating system that first made personal computers possible. And most people could not believe it. It could not handle it or understand it. So Apple came out with this icon-based system. So all you had to do was press an icon. And so everybody fell in love with Apple. And then Microsoft came out with Windows as their answer. So they had their icons too. But the Apple was for the for the computers for dummies people. For the technologically challenged, Apple was the answer. And that now I'm talking about 1990s. So that's no longer the case necessarily. A lot of people have caught up. And but that was the beginning. Apple was the one for the people who didn't like technology.
So why on the back of Chess for Dummies does it say sponsored by Samsung?
Yeah. You know, it doesn't say that on my copy.
So Jim, as you said, now I have a question for Dr. Tulla. That after the smartphones, everyone is talking about cameras, and every new phone is coming up with new cameras and all, and people take selfies, and then they realize that they need to go to plastic surgeon. So do you see a wide range of patients coming just to see they're not looking good on selfies?
So see, it has become a challenge now. See, previously what used to happen was that, I mean, I'm talking about when we started our careers. I mean, it's around somewhere around 17, 18 years, 20 years back. Things were very different, right?
Yeah.
So people used to walk into us. They had their, I mean, see, everyone who comes to a plastic surgeon for a cosmetic issue, there has to be something in their mind also, right? So they used to come to us. We used to understand what they were trying to do, and we used to offer them realistic options. So over the period of time, we had, I mean, people coming in. Now the newest generation, which is the generation X or the millennials, whatever you call them, right? I mean, see, the cameras have changed everything. So ultimately, previously you had good cameras. Now you have good apps. So they do their own permutation and combination, right? Now what happens is that in real life, when they sit in front of a mirror or they're seeing the mirror, because in photographs they are using the apps. So there are apps like Beauty Plus and all. They will change according to the proportions of beauty, do little here and there, right? So that is going to happen. But when they see in front of the mirror, then they want it exactly like an app.
Yes.
So it's a huge challenge. It's a huge challenge, and there are positives and negatives of this, because positives are that they know exactly what they want.
Yes.
So previously we used to tell them, okay, this will look good on you or that. Nowadays they come with that specific request that, okay, I want this. So you cannot go left right with them. It is either what they want. If you can deliver, you go ahead. If you cannot deliver, you just say, sorry, we cannot do that.
Wow.
So it has become very different. Previously, you used to spend a lot of time with the patients, explain them what is to be done, how it's to be done. With this generation next or the millenniums, I mean, when they're talking about specific small procedures, because they're a younger generation, they don't require very hardcore, major procedures, unless and until we're talking about some body contouring procedures. Otherwise, for face and all, they require small procedures. But they are very, very categoric that we want this. So they will come, they will have done their due diligence. They do a lot of homework, they do a lot of research before they come to us. And so it makes our work little easier also, but on the other hand, technically challenging also, because then we are basically, I mean, we are running after the application. So we are trying to deliver exactly in 3-dimensional what an app will do for them in 2-dimensional, which is a challenge in itself.
That is
It's not
just
easy.
yeah.
What
it's
we
not
don't
easy.
want to, what we don't want to do is we don't want to put Anket's picture up on the internet, because then you're going to have about 100 people come to you and say,
I wanna
that's
look
what
just
I want to
like
look
that.
like,
I want to
just
look
like Anket.
Ankit. You make me look like Ankit.
I
Well,
don't think so
what
that-
if somebody comes to you, Dr. Tulla, and says, I have a face made for radio, and I want to have a face made for IBM TV. What can you do for me?
So then it just depends upon whether that is a male or a female, because then we'll have to go according to what. So
Well, let's
for
just
a
say
male,
male, just for
for a male,
hypothetical.
so the conventional beauty for male, or would we say, if I would use the word, that handsome hunks for male is a broad jawline, right? A prominent chin, right? So,
Okay.
so yeah, so that is the typical American sense of beauty, also, to be precise, right? You had a lot of heroes back down in the 70s and 80s who had that typical prominent chin, right? A good sturdy jawline, right? It has changed. It has changed. Nowadays, men look more. I should not use that word, but there has been a little bit of feminizing of the men, which has also started.
Uh-oh.
Right?
Yes.
There is a little bit difference at the moment, but if you look at the 70s and 80s stars, I mean, they had those
Arnold
typical
Schwarzenegger,
sturdy, right?
Rocky
So
Balboa.
people like, yeah.
Yeah.
So even if you look at the previous generations ones like John Travolta and all, they had the typical, I mean, good
Macho,
jawline,
macho.
right? George Harrison, they all had typical good jawlines, right? So
Right.
now the men are also, when they walk up to us, we need to understand what they exactly want, and depending upon their desires, we have to go along with it. Because see, I cannot have my set of ideas I've been superimposed on any other, because we need to understand that the dynamics of beauty keep on changing. So generation to generation, the dynamics will keep on changing. My only and only humble submission to always people is that respect your ethnicity, right?
Yes.
So in certain ethnic populations, certain things are regarded as paramount importance for them in beauty, and as well as preserving their heritage. So we
Right.
always say that we should always do that.
So
So
you should wear
whenever
an
we are going,
Irish hat if you're Irish.
so we always tell that, okay, you should always try not to change your ethnic appearance. In your ethnic appearance only, we should try to make you more beautiful.
So would you
Right?
say I should shave my beard or not?
No, you look excellent, Jim.
Thank
You are a rock star. You're a rock star. There is no doubt about
But
it.
Jim,
Right?
if you want some other
And
solution, I have a
and
small video to
I
play.
would like even one word for Lim. See, if you see Lin also, he looks intellectually stimulating. He
Yes.
looks a very, very, I mean, well-read kind of a person. The appearance he gives is that he is. I mean, I'm just giving you a
He's got a
compliment on
trustworthy
that.
face too. You trust
Yeah.
him. Just look at him
Yeah.
and you just go, yeah, that's a
So,
smart guy. I'll
wait,
believe
so-
him.
Can we,
So
can you,
I just wanted to
Wait
play
a
the
minute.
video that we
Wait a
can
minute.
continue to, because this is one of the trending videos during COVID, and you know how you can change your looks just by wearing a mask.
oh,
Just
there
let-
you go. But I want Dr. Tulla to rerun that one so I can record it, so that I,
Yeah.
so that I can go.
It's on YouTube. You can find
yes,
it.
yes. Anyway, oh,
Okay, here we go.
oh goodness.
I ain't tryna. Yeah, ain't tryna be
Oh,
cool.
That didn't work for me.
Around in your high heel shoes, I'm clumsy. Make friends with the floor. 2 for 1, you know a bitch by 4. And 2 like 3, you know I always rock. First thing a girl did was rock on the whole damn cake and the cherry on top. Shook up the bottom with a good girl pop. You ain't even here to party. In the club, tryna
Oh, better. Definitely better.
So now he resembles somewhat version of Jim
Yeah.
who leaves his mustaches out.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I'm not going to say who he looks like now. Okay.
That's interesting. So here's asking a serious question.
Yes.
What is the percentage of males versus females that you get to come in and do plastic surgery?
So see, the thing is, we need to understand that what are men wanting more when it comes to plastic surgery. So it's not that you cannot have a female versus male kind of a ratio, because see what happens is, if you look at I mean, of course, more women come down for procedures, whether they are small, large, whatever, but definitely the number of women opting out for all kinds of procedures is more as compared to men. But see, we've seen over a period of time, men have also got, I mean, they have become more conscious around that. The only thing with men is, one, they're not very sure what they want. So when they walk into the clinic, it is generally they will give you an idea that they know exactly what they want, but honestly speaking, you need to spend more time with them. You
Really?
need more time with them to understand what exactly is their desire and to work around with it. Women, on the other hand, see, they are more, I would say, inclined to understand what they want, but they, in India especially, sometimes they are not very forthcoming. So you need to dig deep also into them to understand what exactly, because please understand, when you're doing a procedure, the end result of the procedure is very much dependent upon where you started from and what was your aim and objective. So if your aim and objective has not been, I mean, conquered right, you will end up with a catastrophe.
Okay.
And the patient will never be happy with the result.
Sure.
So it is very important that you spend maximum time in consultation. Your consultation time has to be very good quality time spent with the patient, understanding what they want and understanding whether you can even deliver that or not, because sometimes the expectation is very, very unrealistic.
Yeah. So you have to manage.
You have to let.
You have to manage their expectations.
Yes. Yes.
And also, I mean, Dr. Tulla, according to what you were saying, that means that men are more confused when it talks about beauty as compared to women, because they know what they want.
I'll tell you very interestingly, what happens is, if a man walks into my clinic, my all antennas will be up, because I need to listen to him very, very carefully. Very carefully means I'll try to make him first understand from him what they want, right? See, it's a inherent trait. Men are more prone to gamble, right?
Okay.
So for example, someone walks in and they have lines on their foreheads or anything, and if I tell them that, okay, we have this Botox where we can use and do it, so they will try to say, okay, they will not ask too much, right? So they will say, okay, I'll look good, this, that, what is the change going to be, that is the maximum, and then they will flip and take a gamble on it, right? And expecting, even if something goes wrong, they might not, they will say, okay, women, on the other hand, if a lady walks in and she's talking and we're looking at her and she says that I've got wrinkles, we need to exactly understand what she wants there, because we need to understand that she knows what she wants, and she has a picture of herself in her mind, that how she will look like after the procedure. Now we need to visualize that for ourselves, because if we don't visualize that, 9 out of 10 times the chances are that she will not be happy after the procedure. So it's a very delicate take there. With women know what they want. It's sometimes they're not very forthcoming, right? Men, they act as if they know everything. Unfortunately, I believe they know nothing. Right? So that's why I'm sorry, I should not be saying this on TV. But
No,
what I
sure you
understand
should.
out of
Everyone's
so
Absolutely.
that is why I always believe.
Dr. Tulla, there is one more thing. We all are married and we understand that how men and women, differ in a lot of things and how we have to accept a lot of things, basically.
So there is another catch to it. Another catch to it is women generally are very value for money person.
Okay.
So they don't want to see. They are very careful when they are spending money. They want every ounce of that money to be utilized.
Right.
Men, on the other hand, they have a habit of, sometimes taking that spin or the gamble that, okay, it may come off, it may not come, right? So this is the inherent difference. That is why women will cross-check, double-check, triple-check, 4 times check. Men, on the other hand, are, so even in cosmetic industry, if you see, so it is very easy to sell to men as compared to females. It's not easy to sell to females. For a simple, makeup kit also, they will try 10 times here, 10 times there, and would want to confirm, double confirm, and recheck before they buy, right?
Yes.
And this must be happening to you also, Ankit. You must be also going shopping with your wife in the earlier times.
Yes.
I'm not talking about the Corona time. And
No.
I'm sure you must be realizing how difficult, it is, because see, they have this thing in their mind that exactly what they want.
But Dr. Tulla, if I came to you and I said, "Can you make me look like Ankit?" Would you say that my expectations were unrealistic, or would you just say,
Jim,
"I can make you"?
So Jim, the basic structure difference is that, see, you look at his face and your face, right? Now, so the biggest difference is that if you look at your face, you have got a very slender face, right? So he has got a little bit of plumpier face, right? And of course, there is going to be a body weight difference also. So you are very, very, relatively very thin as compared to Ankit. I'm not saying that he's obese, but
No.
he is the way it should be. You seem to have lost a lot of weight, and you seem to be, I presume, underweight, if I'm not wrong.
But
So
I just want to make one point, Dr. Tulla. I think I'm not sure, but I believe that Jim have that what do you call beer belly? Is it that?
No, he doesn't. So he looks very
all the
fit.
weight that should be in my face is in my gut.
So he looks very fit. It's just that with aging you do lose a. So what the best thing to, I would say that you should not be looking at Ankit. You should be looking at. First I don't think you require too much of an improvement, because I would compliment you that you look good, right? You look excellent for your age. I'm sure. And
but I heard,
I
heard you say that.
Yeah, so when it comes down to this, it is very important that we understand what we want, right? So in your case, the maximum thing which we can do is maybe just lift the face a little bit. I don't want to plump up your face too much, because it may not look very good on your face. Because you've got a personality. We don't want to change the personality per se on the face. So we want you to be your more natural self rather than someone artificial.
Agreed.
So that is very important when we're looking at it.
I think that's absolutely very wise.
So here's another question. I've been short all my life. Can you make me taller?
So I would tell you an interesting thing, Lynn. There is of course, there are surgeries which are done for limb lengthening, right? Now, what happens in those surgeries are that generally what we do is we break the bones, the long bones of the leg, right? And ultimately there is a distractor, which is a device in which you have to move it by 0.25 millimeter, like that, and the bone starts elongating on its own, because bone has a tendency to elongate. But these are very cumbersome surgeries, and they should ideally not be done. And even if they're done, they should be done at a younger age, where the bone healing process is much better. When you start aging, it becomes a little difficult. The easier buck will be to wear the cow boot, cowboy boots,
or wear the turban,
or this.
Yeah. I think I just heard that I have to leave because Dr. Tulla called me old. I'm just, but no,
he said, actually, when you get old.
Yeah, it's interesting because maybe Dr. Tulla, are you familiar with diabetes insipidus?
I'm sorry, I didn't get it.
Diabetes insipidus.
Okay, so you have that?
No, I don't. My son does. So
Okay.
so we didn't know. And we actually looked into the possibility of the procedure. I mean, he's almost 52, so so it's been a long time ago. But he's only 5'2", because he lost a year of growth when he was around between a year and 2 years. So he lost basically a whole year of growth, and it was because we didn't understand what he needed. He needed water before he ate, and you know, you don't give a kid water before they eat. Normally, that's something you don't do. But he was of course he was basically dehydrating himself. Okay. So we did look into the procedure, and I was being funny when I asked about making me taller, but it was interesting because I wanted to understand about the procedure, because we actually gave some thought to that when he was a child, that to help him get taller. But that's all right. He has more fun. He lives in right near Ankit and or not Ankit, I mean Kimberly and Nick. And he actually set up a website called The Short Little White Guy, and he actually calls into the radio stations, and they've gotten to know him, say, oh, the short little white guy's on the phone today. So
get Shorty.
Yeah.
So the good see this is what it is different in cultures, because if you were to talk about people living in maybe the Korea or somewhere, 5'2" is a very decent height there.
Well, that's
unfortunately
true.
In your part of the world, generally people are growing too taller. So you have 6'1", 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah.
So I think 5'11" will be a very average height in your part of the world.
I have a friend who's 6'10", and I can't even stand on a chair and look him in the eye.
Yeah, you will not be. I'm sure that.
I think is it because they follow a lot of NBAs and soccer?
It's most probably, I think, a genetic trait in them that they generally are taller. That's what it is. So I mean, that is the way it is.
There's a big difference between my generation and the next generation. The
Absolutely.
next generation is tall.
Yep.
So it might be.
So they're getting more taller.
Yeah, and so I assume it might be their diet is better.
That is a big question mark, because I presume you must be eating better than them.
Well, now I am.
Yeah, maybe they are taking more hormones than you.
I'm not quite sure why that is true, but Jim, you're absolutely right. I mean, in the U.S., each of the generations gets taller, and it's you know, I won't live to see it, but maybe the average height in the United States will be 7'2" at some point. You know, that's pretty tall. I don't know what that is in centimeters. I can look it up, but
the pandemic is going to make sure that that's not true. It won't happen in anyone's lifetime.
No, I know.
Yep.
I know. So,
but it has been historically true.
That is basically following the Lamarck's principle, which was that the principle which they had when they believed that the giraffe grew their neck because they were always, I mean, there was difficult. There was a problem with the food at the ground level. So the animals started eating the leaves of trees, and the stretch kept on going, and they kept on. But I mean, that is something which is just a hypothesis. I mean, that's
but I also have the hypothesis that when the apes came down from the trees and they were in the tall savanna grass, they had to stand up to see. So they probably, instead of walking on all fours, had learned to walk on 2 feet.
So that's the principle around it.
Right.
But anyway, I don't think there is any disadvantage of height. So I think the only thing, I think it's old age. When you get old, you start getting bent.
Yes.
So you start going down. That's the only thing. Otherwise, I don't think there's too much of a disadvantage of height.
No, if you're playing in the NBA, it's definitely worth money.
But to give you a little bit of sense, you see, there's been this. If you look at in India, we follow a lot of cricket, right? So generally, good batsmen have always been shorter height players.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, shorter back.
Similarly, in football also, if you see, I mean, Diego Maradona. I mean, if you look at the newer generation, Lionel Messi, Ronaldo is also not very tall. So you have all these people who are not very tall.
Which
So there is something around it.
Which reminds me, Kip, because are you doing a cricket show? Because I have that gentleman who's from England who.
So we are doing a cricket show, but we just have to reschedule it on some other day because when we do a show of cricket in India, it's too late, and then a lot of cricketers are not available at that time. And also because cricket that means a lot of money in our part of the world. So everyone has a media contract, and it's difficult to get people on board. So I'm just trying my best to get the international cricketers on board, but I am unlucky as of now. I had a word with a lot of people, but I mean, they are not ready to come up on IBMTV because they have their own media contracts. But the best part is that right now we have started cricket internationally, and England is playing with Caribbean. So Caribbean is known as West Indies. So they're playing cricket in England, London, and they're playing without spectators, and they're following the all the best possible precautions and all those stuff. And if that series is successful, then the cricket is back in the international arena.
Good.
And I was on Ankit's cricket show, and they decided, all the cricket experts decided that my best position was umpire.
I would beg to disagree there. I think you'll make a beautiful and a very quirky wicketkeeper because you know how to duck questions here and there. and a smart one too, and a willy one also.
That's funny.
But I wanted to be the position where I get to throw somebody out of the game.
So were you a cricket?
So Lynn, this is for you basically. Do you know who is he?
Whoa.
No, I don't know any of these people. Oh, here comes my dog.
He was a fantastic player, and now he's doing what?
So he is Jason Gillespie. So he is an Australian fast bowler who has retired now, and his nickname was Dizzy. Why they call him Dizzy, I don't know.
Yeah, and he looks like Jim as well. I mean, he looks quite similar to him.
He resembles Jim.
Pretty good.
So
was he a bowler or was he a batter?
He was a bowler.
He was a bowler.
He was a bowler, and then
very successful one.
Yeah.
And Lynn, you'll remember this. That we had a famous pitcher. We had a famous pitcher called Dizzy Dean.
Oh, Lynn, Dizzy Dean.
Yes,
absolutely.
And so you hit the guy in the head, and he got dizzy because he didn't have greatest control.
and if I'm not mistaken, he had a brother.
Yes.
And then didn't they call his brother Daffy?
Yes, for a while that would caught on. Yes.
Yes.
Dizzy and Daffy.
Yeah, that's true.
But the Dean brothers were both excellent pitchers. Yes.
Yeah, but I'm not sure. Do you guys play baseball over in India at all?
Only cricket.
It's not too much, but see, I fortunately have been brought up in a very cosmopolitan atmosphere, and I do remember that during our childhood, I mean, we used to have a lot of baseball games, right?
Oh, really?
Though we were children,
really?
We were very, very small at that time, so I mean, we didn't understand too much because ultimately it was a little bit of a different game at that time because I mean there was a bat, the ball, and I mean we were basically just swinging the bat.
Yeah.
And for us children, everyone used to do underarm throws, so it was not very difficult for us to hit the ball.
Right.
And then run the bases. That is what we used to do.
Yeah.
So it was fun time during our times during the early years.
Even in the
grew old, we did not. I mean, I don't remember that after around when I was in some around 7th or 8th grade. After that, I've never played baseball.
Ah, okay.
Even in
Okay.
the urban cities, when there wasn't a lot of space, we played stickball. So it's
Yep.
just a stick. You can make a stick, and you made up your baseball out of whatever, and you just play the game. But
Well-
Lynn, did you learn baseball from your dad?
I guess I sort of did. I had an uncle who was an absolute baseball nut.
Okay.
And he used to take me to see baseball games. We had both an American League and a National League team. So
Yeah.
I actually saw Joe DiMaggio play in his last year.
I know. You always make me mad. I know.
Yeah, I know.
Tokens, but my dad was a Yankee fan, so I'm a Yankee fan.
Yeah.
It's always been passed down.
Yeah.
From father to son. That was the thing in the United States.
Yeah, my father. I mean, he wasn't so much a baseball player, but he used to play catch with me all the time, teach me how to try and pitch. But and I always thought it was great if I could throw a curveball, but my hands are so small that it's hard to grip the ball. So. But you talk about playing stickball. Oftentimes, what the kids would do would be use broomsticks.
Yeah.
And they would get a broomstick and use that. And then they had what they called half ball. So they actually had half a ball. And of course, when you try and throw a round ball, it goes pretty straight. But because of the wind and catching the wind, a half ball, you had to be pretty good. Yeah, it's like a knuckleball.
Yeah.
And Ankit and Dr. Tulla don't know what a knuckleball does, but a knuckleball will go all like this, and nobody throws that anymore. There used to be some absolutely fabulous pitchers who threw that. Yeah.
Right. So let me tell you, in cricket we have a knuckleball.
Oh, is there a knuckleball in cricket?
Yeah. We have developed a knuckleball now in cricket, and what that ball does is that ball have multiple revolutions while the bowler bowls the ball, and then they hit the deck so that the ball will go at a higher pace. And a bowler is bowling at a fast arm, but the ball is slow. So that the batsman is confused that whether it's a fast ball or a slow ball, and because of those multiple revolutions, it's difficult to hit that ball.
Exactly.
Okay, that's the way a knuckleballer is.
Exactly.
Yeah, and oftentimes the catcher, of course, baseball has a catcher, right? Okay, the catcher never knows where the ball's going to go because he'll put the glove up here and the ball comes down here. So you really have to pay attention if you're a catcher.
With Ankit, though, everything comes back to cricket. You can start.
I know,
and it always goes back to cricket.
Yeah.
See, you won't believe that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of sports. I was part of football and athletics and table tennis and volleyball and basketball and all those stuff. But cricket was something which is like everyone watches. So when we were kids, it's like cricket is a religion because whenever there's a cricket game, everyone is watching cricket. So that means there is something important to cricket. And then all of our channels, I mean, now they broadcast a lot of sports. But initially there was only one sport, which is cricket. So then you automatically follow cricket. Although we already have a lot of hockey as well because our national sport is hockey, not cricket.
Is hockey field hockey?
Yeah. Yes.
Really?
Yeah, field hockey.
Field hockey. Okay.
And we were champions at one point of time. I mean, before independence and after independence as well. I think we won like 3 or 4 golds in hockey in Olympics, and we were the best team. And at that time, we used to play without shoes.
Yeah.
Without shoes.
When you say hockey to us, we think of ice hockey. And
I do understand that you look at ice.
I'm thinking India ice hockey.
No, they only play that up towards
we do play a little bit of ice hockey, but it is far, far inferior to what you guys are playing.
Yeah.
We're just amateurs in ice hockey.
But I'll tell you one thing interesting. In Switzerland, we are trying a different cricket game, which is ice cricket. And because a lot of ice, so they conduct a tournament, a cricket tournament when the ice is at peak, and they play that cricket game this time, not this time, last year with all the international players. They go just for a charity match, and they're trying whether they can play that ice cricket now. So there are a lot of innovation going around.
That's
because many of our states have long, hard winters, and there's lots of ice, lots of ponds freeze over, and so most of the sports in the winter time, so ice hockey was a big thing in New England. It was, growing up, it was but you come to California and ice hockey, nobody knows about it.
Because they believe in beach volleyball. California.
Yes, beach volleyball's much bigger.
or surfing.
Surfing.
Yeah. So do you surf in India at all?
We have places where we do, but it's mostly in the northern part of India, and also when the winter is there. And then we have a place called Oli in Himachal Pradesh, where they conduct some kind of a tournament or something, because a lot of people from across the world, they go there and do the winter games. So that I know, but I have never been to Oli during winters. But they conduct a lot of sports, and surfing is one of them.
But
So is that?
Go ahead.
No, well, I was going to ask: is that up in the northwest or the northeast?
It's up north.
What?
It's up north.
The west coast, east coast?
West coast or east coast?
No. So we have. So when we talk about north, we don't have that northwest kind of a setup. North means it's close to Himalayas. So that is what north is, because our map is like this basically. So we have like the north, and then we have.
Yeah,
so
right. I know where the Himalayas are, but how do you surf? Is it you surf?
No. What he's trying to tell you is that he's talking about skiing and ice.
Skiing. Oh yeah, skiing.
Surfing is done generally down south. Our wave structures is not the ocean's wave structure is not typically as your part of the world is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there are people who try to do a little bit, but it's not very popular down in India.
Yeah.
Well, that's
I know what India looks like, Ankit, because I looked it up on my phone.
Yeah. So that's what I would. That's why I asked the question, because I didn't know whether the wave structure was good enough to surf in
India. We don't have those kind of. See, we have good waves in some parts of. There is a place called Andaman and Nicobar Islands, but unfortunately, maximum islands are restricted, so you're not allowed to go to those islands. There, the waves and the sea is much better when it comes down to these games, but unfortunately, as there is a restriction, so it is not very popular.
Right.
But we have an interesting, we have an interesting sport which is known as boat. So we have a very long boat where I think around 50 people sit, and then they compete with each other, and that happens in Kerala in South India. And if you, I'll just pick up a video, and that's very interesting, basically.
Okay.
That we do.
But Ankit, I'd have one question for you. Do you follow a cricket team, and do you root against other teams like we do in baseball? Like Lynn and I are
here it comes. Here it comes.
Yeah. Lynn is a Philly fan. I'm a Yankee fan. And so there's some tension there. Is that same?
So we have So basically, whenever there's a cricket game going on, I mean, people watch that game. When you talk about team, obviously we support India. But apart from that, if you talk about the club games, so we have an IPL with a lot of clubs are there. And it's not that I will support Delhi because I'm from Delhi. I support Bangalore and other cities and states as well. I mean, based on who is doing what, and based on where our star players is playing, basically.
Right.
So I don't know. There are a lot of people who are hardcore supporters of some team, but I support cricket, so I support all the teams.
Okay, so I'm asking the wrong guy.
So unfortunately, I'm going to have to adjourn. I just looked at the time, but Dr. Tulla, I hope we answered. We talked about some of the medical subjects that you came to talk about today, but since I'm getting off, maybe that'll make it easier for you because I won't interrupt you.
No. It's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure, Lynn. It's always a pleasure.
It is. It's a pleasure to see you too. Yeah.
Always. The pleasure is all mine.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye, Lynn.
Bye.
Dr. Tulla, have you had any personal experience with the COVID?
See, honestly speaking, at the place where I live, we've got around So we live in a society. So at this moment, the COVID count of our society itself is around 16 people. So we've got 16 people infected.
That's not.
And yeah, so I've had the pleasure of interacting with all of them. So fortunately, everyone is in home quarantine, and nothing. I mean, with God's grace, nothing wrong has happened till date, and we didn't have too much of a complication with any of them. But I mean, it's a scary situation out here. I mean,
Yes.
it's not. I mean, with the WHO also, see, I mean, they've made a mess out of themselves because they themselves are not. They're giving every day conflicting statements. So I don't know what to say for them, but as I don't hold any brief for them, but I really believe that this is the time people should even, I mean, take even more precautions and try to be absolutely safe to whatever hilt they can, because I mean we are in for a long haul. It's not a very rosy situation out there.
I agree.
And then on top of it, I could see, I'm sure Ankit must have also seen that there is a little bit of, there are certain drugs which are life-saving drugs also. So there is now this hoarding of drugs also happening in our part of the world. So a lot of drugs are not available. And I don't know, I mean, it's a shame people are indulging in all of that at this time. I mean, it's really, I mean, I feel very sorry and absolutely heartbroken to see that people are running from pillar to post for certain kind of medication which they are not able to. I mean, which should have not been a problem, but unfortunately, it's people who are profiteering or indulging in all kinds of corrupt practices. It's a sorry state of affairs there. I really believe that as humans, we should not do all of this. At least at this trying times, we should try and help each other out. And we have then people, black sheep in the family, who are, I mean, ultimately doing all of this. And I really hope and pray that the government, I mean, interferes in this and clamps down on this badly, because that is the least which we can expect from the government.
Well, I'm sorry to bring up such a sad subject, but you know, it is on all
No,
our
it
minds.
is important. It's important. It's important, Jim, because we need to understand that. See, what has happened is over a period of time, I've seen that people become complacent.
Yes.
Now we need to understand that this is a war. This is a very, very difficult war.
Yes.
And you have to be on war footing 24 hours into 7. You cannot let your guard down. The time you let your guard down, you are asking for trouble.
Yes.
True.
Absolutely.
So it is very important that the message has to percolate. That is why it is very important. You're very right that it is very important that we percolate the right message. And even if that means that you are trying to scare people, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Sometimes being scared is okay.
And it's common sense to be a little bit scared now.
Yeah, it is very important that we understand that we should be, I mean, we should be taking precautions to the hilt. I mean, we should not be, just going into some uncharted territory by saying that we are brave.
Exactly. And we it's a novel virus and we don't have a handle on it now. We can't tell, so we get conflicting information and people throw up their hands and say, I just might as well do whatever I want.
So I'll tell you very interestingly what was happening in certain parts of our country. The governments were able to contain it for a period of time.
Yeah.
Now what happens is 1 or 2 cases and suddenly the whole thing goes off. So it becomes very frustrating for the governments also. So they believe that they're trying their hearts out to try and, I mean, have some kind of a lid or closure on this. But unfortunately, this is just like, I mean, it's just like gas. You get a small leak somewhere and it just flows out.
Right.
So that is why it is very important that we understand that. And I mean, that's the only, so I mean, there are basic tenets to what we need to do. That is again and again, I keep on repeating: mask, distance, and indoor. These are 3 things which you need to understand. So I mean, that is home. Indoors is home for me.
But not indoors. Not indoors in a crowd.
No, not at all.
Right.
Only at
because the situation, what it looks like, See, everyone is denying that it is airborne. It is just a matter of time. I'm sure they'll come out to within a few days. They'll come out and say it can transmit through aerosol.
They're starting to say that.
So they've already
Yes.
so Dr. Tulla, I think day before yesterday they've already made a
Yes.
press
Yes.
conference in WHO. Yeah.
Yeah, so they will see. Ultimately, what happens is, I do understand there may be a lot of pressure due to whatever reasons. So they,
Yeah.
but ultimately, how are you going to do it? Sometimes you have to admit.
Obviously.
And the best thing whenever you want to do something good, the first thing is to accept and admit that you don't know everything.
Right.
If you don't accept that you don't know everything, then there is a problem, because I believe then you're not never going to get it right.
I agree.
And also, sir, if you see the numbers, we are growing every day. There are increase in number of numbers as compared to what it was earlier. I know that is because we are doing a lot of testing, but that is also a problem that we are not able to contain it, and we are not talking about lockdown and tracking and all those things. And vaccine is still very far from here. But once we started opening up the economy, and once our ministers and our especially chief minister say that everything is fine and it's okay and we are controlling, that means people are little resident and they are less careless. Basically, and then they started going out without wearing a mask and all those stuff. And that's why I think the numbers are growing like anything.
So that is why we need to understand that ultimately who are our role models here. So we need to understand that. See, I will not comment about politicians per se, but you understand. At the end of the day, they are not the people who understand science.
No.
Yeah.
So they understand two things which are very important for any politician. One is to survive, right? Which they do damn well, right? And the other is how to, win elections. So, at the end of the day, common people, unless and until the common people realize that ultimately, they are not the right role models for you when it comes to science. Science, you have to listen to the scientists and the doctors there. So people who don't know anything about medicine, they cannot talk. See, it's just like I am sitting in front of Jim and advising him on chess. Now that I'll be a stupid person to do that, right?
Yeah.
I may be an amateur chess player, but he is an expert. So I can't advise him on chess. that is stupidity on my part to do it.
Or
we need to understand.
Me advising you on plastic surgery. It would make
see, we can have our opinions. That's no doubt about it. You can have an opinion. I can have an opinion. But ultimately, the call has to be taken by you, and I have to go by that. So that is very important. And unfortunately, what I see is the doctors also have to understand that there is a responsibility for them to talk absolutely scientific truth.
Yes.
Right? There should not be any kind of so it should not be a wish-wash kind of a statement, or trying to please people or trying to please corporates or anyone else. I don't think this is the time to do that. Unfortunately, what I see maximum times is that there is a kind of PR machinery and marketing which is happening around science.
Yeah.
Now that is something which is deplorable, and I don't ascribe to that. I really believe marketing is another story. You can market whatever you want to, but there it has to be backed by sound science. You cannot just market a product without having anything in it.
What I don't know if this is happening in India, but what's going on in the United States is that when the scientists come out and speak the truth, then they get off stage, because they only want the people on stage that are going to say the politically correct thing to say. So the ones that are
Jim, that is the problem when you have elections around the corner.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that is going to happen in every part of the world, not only your part of the world. I presume it is going to happen in every world where there is going to be an election in the near vicinity. And I'm sure where there is not going to be any election for 5 years or 4 years in the vicinity, not many people will be talking that.
Yeah. Because we had Ben Coates on, who's from the UK, and he had to leave to go. Hi, Sasha. We had to leave to go to watch his prime minister give a talk, and it was about relaxing the shelter-in-place rules, about opening up again. for opening up for the economy. And so this, I'm just shaking my head because we know how this is going to come. This is going to turn out. People are going to see a spike in viruses again. In case.
Jim, I'll give you a basic stat about opening up. If you see when those countries have opened up, and you can see the spike in number of cases. It happens with Hong Kong. It happens with Australia. It happens in England. It happens everywhere. It happens in South Africa, where they were contained it very well. And once they open up the economy, they have, more cases like anything else. And that happened with Brazil, and that happened in Mexico, because I still remember talking to Brazil and Mexico sometime in April and May, and they have very few cases, but they were not concerned, and now they are the biggest, cases moving up in the world.
Having a horrible problem now. Yes.
Yeah. And that is what the problem is, that when we were locked down, we were be able to contain it, but when we started to open up the economy, cases are growing like anything, and I still don't understand why we can't lock down a city. If there's a case in a city, you can lock down a city and run the operations.
New York City did it. New York City, a giant city, did it. They locked down. They sheltered in place.
No, but my brother is going to New York whenever he wants to.
Yeah. No. I mean the people themselves stayed in. Like you could walk down.
So it's not about people. It's about everyone. It's suppose if everything is locked down and it's 10 people are still roaming around the street, that also is spread basically. That is the problem. And also a lot of essential people, they have to go out, but they might not have the right gear to wear because they are using the same mask and same PPE kit again and again. I'm not talking about India, but generally, I've seen a lot of videos and that's happening. And then the important part is that the practice, we are talking about wash hands and wearing the gloves and wearing the mask and all those stuff. But basically, we have to change our mask. That is also very important. We don't
get
put
a big box of them. Get a big box of masks.
I have known a lot of people who are wearing the mask since 3 months, same mask.
I agree.
So
that's education, though. That's somehow you've got to get the people's minds a little higher.
That is the problem. That is what we need to understand is that, politicians or non-politicians, we need to use our common sense. If you're not going to use a common sense, then I presume we are doomed. Yeah. And I really believe, if you look at all around the world at this moment, everyone is in a frenzy and everyone is in one-upmanship mode. If you look at all the politicians all across, everyone wants to be the global leader at the moment. So I'm sorry to say, but there are a stupid bunch of people running all across the world at the moment in the top job.
True.
I'm sorry, I'm using a word. It's not a right word to use. Unfortunately, that is what is happening, right? So you need to understand that the moderates are gone out of fashion nowadays. Everyone is trying to prove that he is the better leader as compared to others. And then if you have this inward kind of a tendency where people are going to, the world leaders are going to say that I am great, I am great, I am great. And you have 10 followers who are going to say you are great, you are great, you are great. And that's what is going to happen then.
It's what happened in Brazil.
Yeah. So look at that gentleman and look at what happened in England also. Their prime minister was also shouting and saying that nothing. What happened? So I'm not anti-economy. What I'm trying to tell you is you can open the economy, but have the restrictions you have to be very harsh with the people with the rules. You cannot have a lackluster approach on that and say that, okay, we are going to open the economy and you can go around. If you're wearing a mask, you're not wearing a mask, it doesn't matter. If you're not maintaining distance, no problems. No one is going to be. You have to be harsh with people on that. Because what I understand is that in India, at least, people are not going to listen because one, the posturing is not right. So you're not posturing right by telling them that this is a real emergency, and you need to understand that you will ultimately die if you don't take precaution.
Yes.
I really believe I don't want to use that word and I don't want to fearmonger, but this is the posturing which has to be given to the people. Because once they understand the real gravity of the situation, they themselves will start taking care. But if you are telling them everything is okay, there is nothing to worry, and then I've seen some of my colleagues also going on TV and telling it's just a virus. Now, you understand, even if one person dies out of it, why should one?
Yeah.
I completely agree. And Dr. Tulla, there is one more thing. What I understand is that in the media around the world, everyone is talking about vaccine, and they are trying to lobbying the vaccine on all the media channels that we are coming up the vaccine and this and that and all those things. And now the rat race, because if that vaccine arrives at some point of time, that's $1 trillion business. And all the politicians are supporting those companies who are doing those vaccines. That is a good part, but there is no point of talking in media that when the vaccine is coming up, because
Yes.
people watch the media and people would say that, okay, vaccine are coming up, so we have to be resilient and we have to be careful and we have to be careless. I mean, because there are a lot of people around the world and they also understand, suppose if the vaccine comes on 15th of August, you still need to have that production for around the world, and we are like 7 to 8 billion people. It's not possible to get that vaccination in one day. You need to wait for your turn, and that's also a big task basically. And I don't understand, because vaccine may be for COVID 1.0, but we have multiple symptoms, so it takes
Yes.
time. And I don't know why. I mean, it's a basic theory. I mean, I don't know why they're promoting vaccines on media channels and talking about when it's coming and when not it's coming, and then because of that the stock market goes up and down.
Yeah, let me ask Sasha this. Sasha, are you investing in any company that might have a vaccine?
No.
No. So you know I'm a contrarian, but you have your own opinions on what we should be doing here. So I'd like to hear your opinion on
My
how
opinion is
we open the economy or not.
I think that stocks of few companies that pretend to be close to have vaccine and second stage test or third stage age, their stock is already overvalued. And even if they will come up with some kind of a vaccine, there is a very little upside potential, but downside is huge. So if you buy any stock, and they're expensive now, I mean, Regeneron is, for example, $560 a share. So if you buy this, and they will come short of either testing, or testing will be but later 2 weeks than it should be, their stock will come down to the 250 a share, and it will be history before they will come up with any vaccine.
Yes.
So yeah, who needs this aggravation? And upside is, as I said, limited. And I think the effect of the any vaccine, whatever it might be there, is overvalued anyway, because there is already talk. A lot of people are saying that they will never ever take whatever vaccines there will be. They don't trust the vaccines. They don't believe. They think that they will put some other materials there, that FBI or whoever will spy on them through this vaccine. And so on. So they're reluctant even to consider trying that anyway. Now, how effective the vaccine will be, it's taking years to verify that it's effective. But saying so, I believe that we are living now in dangerous world, because if vaccine, either even if it will be invented, it's still months, if not years, apart from us here, and so it's a factor overestimated anyway. But however, if it's not vaccine, or vaccine which very few people will take, which equal to no vaccine at all, then what to do? So you keep closed economy, so the many countries, cities will collapse economically speaking, right? And once you're collapsing economically, your health will be in danger automatically, and not even from coronavirus, but from several other diseases. Anyway, now if you open the economies, then you're risking coronavirus, which nobody wants to have anyway. And I personally would like to avoid it at all costs, because if I have a choice uh, to have inconveniences and somehow prevent coronavirus from infecting me, I'd rather to do that than start doing my normal lifestyle and have a danger of coronavirus. Even if I would have a good immune system, which I'm not sure if I have, but even if I would have a good immune system, there are a lot of side effects of coronavirus. And as you remember, Irina Krush, the grandmaster who had coronavirus a few months ago. Last time she wrote that she still hasn't recovered fully, and she's healthy. She's 36, 37 years old
Young
woman.
enough and healthy enough that you wouldn't think that this
And
would be
she's very sport-minded. She's playing tennis. She's running. I mean, she's in good health.
yes.
And she hasn't fully recovered yet. Now already so many months after she's got it.
She was infected early in March, right?
Yeah, so it is very dangerous thing about coronavirus that also all the thoughts about that, okay, even if you will get sick, you will get antibodies and you will never get it again. That's not to be proven either.
Right.
You get infected with coronavirus, you may survive, and you still are in danger to get it second time around.
Well, Dr. Tulla, is Sasha showing you common sense?
Yeah. See, that's what I'm trying to tell you. That people who come to your channel, I mean, and they talk great sense. I'm sure the people seeing also are reasonable people. I mean, they must be seeing, they must be understanding on their. The problem is, see, we need to understand the posturing is not right from our top leaders, and you just can't do anything about it. They will remain like this only. I don't expect them to change even a wee bit because they have not changed over a period of time. So one hand they're telling, yes, the cases are rising, we're trying our level best, and then the other hand they're telling people that there is nothing to worry. Now, why is there not to worry? I think you should be worried, because please understand, if you're going to drive a little bit fear into people's head, they will at least take precautions. If you are not going to put that fear factor into their heads, they are not going to take precautions. This is basic human nature. You can't change it. And whether I say or you agree, disagree, whatever, at the end of the day, they're not going to listen to them.
But I'm worried.
Now, for example, Jim, for example, if you knew that, okay, you're going out, you're risking yourself around 70 to 80% risk of exposure, right? And when you're staying at home, it is a 0% exposure, right? You know the pros and cons of the disease, how the disease is, what is the expenditure which you will, recur if you get infected. I'm sorry, I'm saying that to you. I don't mean it to you, but what I mean to say is, I'm just giving you just a scenario. Now, what are you going to do? Common sense will tell you that you should stay home.
Yes, I agree. And
So
but that message is being, let's see, it's not as loud as the louder voices that are saying
yes,
everything's okay, or
So I believe everything is not okay, and there is no new normal. I mean, this is going to be a new normal. So you need to understand, you need to adjust according to your new normal. Now,
right.
What is your new normal? The new normal is not that you just throw caution into the wind and go to the beaches, go to the pools, enjoy the malls and all that. That is not your new normal.
I agree.
The new normal is that you need to conserve on yourself. You need to be careful about yourself. You need to be very, very cautious of what you're doing and how you're doing. That is what it is.
One of the things that we saw in the United States was that we were first told like it's dangerous for old people, but the young people aren't going to be affected by it. So on spring break, all these people went to Florida beaches, all these young people, and now we're finding out that young people are getting it, and young people can be survival because they have the immune system and other things going for them, and so they don't die. So they're not the statistic, but they have maybe permanent damage to their lungs, maybe permanent damage to their brains. So these are things that you wouldn't want any young person exposed to, that chance. But they're running out to the beaches anyways.
No, Jim, you will be highly surprised that today we had an article in one of our leading newspaper dailies where they told that under 50 years of age, 49 to be precise, 43% of infection is noted in that age group.
Say it again,
So
Dr.
so that means that under the age group of 49 years, if we were presuming that there is a 100% infection rate, 43% were infected under that age group. So out of 100 people infected, 43 people will be under the age group of 49 years.
That's scary.
That Lambert's that theory of that old infection rate.
Yes.
I mean, where is the I mean, that just tells you the story.
Right.
Yeah.
Sasha, you were going to say something.
Yes,
Please go ahead.
yeah, Dr. Tulla, in my opinion, tell me if I'm correct, in order to be infected or not infected, there are two factors very important. One factor is your immune system, and second factor is the dose that attacks you. And the higher is the dose, the more chances it will penetrate your immune system and will infect you. And in fact, if they're going to the young people, they're going to beaches in big numbers and they're very close to each other and so on, in fact, they can get much larger doses that they would get otherwise. And even if they have a stronger immune system than older people, but the large dose will make them infected anyway. That's a problem. Another thing, what I wanted to say is, of course, economy somehow has to reopen, if not fully reopen, but at least partially. And in that case, it has to be a very tedious, well thought out process. And I don't understand what Florida beaches have to do with opening of the economy. You should open economy, not Florida beaches. You have very little to do with the economy anyway.
Okay, there's two things I heard, Dr. Tulla. Does the dosage matter?
So see, the viral load is a factor. So that means that if people who are infected and they have a more viral load and they are throwing the virus out at you, and the inoculation of the virus, if it is the viral load is more in you, there is a more chance that you will get infected faster, and the chances of the viral replication is also going to increase. Now that does not mean that even if the viral load, you get infected by the viral load, if it is less, it is not going to cause a disease. It may cause a disease. I mean, what I'm talking about disease is that symptom. I'm not talking about asymptomatic disease as disease there, right? But please do understand, people who are asymptomatic also have their organs also take a beating. It is not that everything is hunky dory with them.
Right.
That they will come to know after a period of time. At the moment, they will not come to know what is happening with them. So what we've seen that people who generally did not have too many symptoms, generally they feel very weak and tired for at least month to maybe 2 months after recovering, sometimes even more.
Yes.
So that means that the virus has taken a toll on something with them. So it's not, see, there is going to be a lot of studies on this over a period of time. It's a new virus. It is very difficult to predict at the moment which way it's going to do. That is why it is more important it is for people to understand that no one knows too much about this virus. We need to be very careful with this virus. But
Yeah.
what I see our readers and everyone is or their statements are exactly on the contrary. So the impression they are giving is that everything is okay, everything is okay, everything is under control. I mean, you should take precautions, but don't be afraid. Now, I don't understand who takes precaution if they are not afraid.
Right. Yes. And the second thing that Sasha was bringing up is that, okay, there is some argument, and it is logical, that we must open up our economy at some point in time. But what I heard you saying earlier is you have to do it under certain conditions, and they must be strict conditions, even harsh.
Yes.
And
so
I don't
I'm not
know
saying that don't open the economy. I'm telling open the economy. There is no problem with that. But with stringent markers. Stringent markers means absolutely stringent markers. And there has to be penalties imposed, because I don't think people will understand, at least in a country like ours. I have now, I've given up virtually on that people, because see, I stay in a colony. I get up for the morning walk in the morning time. I roam around and see that people are not wearing any mask there. They're not bothered.
That's
so
what Ben said
even if
about
they are
the
jogging,
UK.
yeah. So that is the bottom line. If they're not bothered, see, I don't understand this culture or this feel in people where they feel that they will not get infected.
Right.
So they feel that the other may get infected, they are not going to get infected. Unfortunately, this glass ceiling has to fall.
Yes.
I mean, you have to hammer it in their head
Yes.
that there is a problem with this.
Yes. And Sasha, Canadians are generally perceived to be well behaved, but the United States is not perceived that way. And so, whatever our precautions, opening up the economy here, whatever we do, however we do it, there will be the bad apples. There will be people scofflaws. They will not. So, what the other thing you were telling us, Dr. Tulla, is there has to be consequences. If you're going to be a scofflaw, if you're going to go around without a mask into a shopping mall, you must pay a price for doing that. And I'm not sure that our society is ready to do that. I don't know if we can open up intelligently and give everybody precautions, but I don't think that the average United States citizen will follow those rules, follow those precautions, unless there is a price to be paid. And I don't know if our society has the will to impose that price.
Well, it was tried in Toronto when it first closed, I think mid-March. Everything was closed and there was an enforcement. I know a person who was driving a car and he was stopped by police, and he said that he was driving to work, but they checked his home address and the work address, and they figured out that he's not on his way to work or somewhere else, and he was fined $1,000.
Well, that gets their attention.
Yeah, it gets attention, yeah, because to pay $1,000 just for that, it's quite painful. And there was also, but I don't know these people, but somebody told me that two people were walking together and there was a less than 2 meters distance between them. So they were fined $500 each. That's a little bit easier and more liberal consequences than $1,000 per person. But
still a consequence.
Yeah, and don't forget it's only 500 Canadians, so it's even less money for US people, so they can easily afford that. I'm pretty sure.
500 rubles.
500 rubles. Nobody would even spend time talking about it. $500, yeah, it hurts. Yes, absolutely.
But do you think we have the will to do that, to fine people?
It hasn't been even discussed. It was an order from such date, such everything will be enforced, and it was right away. The prizes, the fines, they were in effect almost immediately from the first day. And it's not that you are being warned; you are fined on the spot. It makes a big difference.
Yes.
Now there are still, even in Toronto, in some areas, there is, for example, from today, some areas of the cities, there is enforcement to wear mask 100% of the time. Now, I'm not sure whether it will be same consequences of like $1,000 or $500 fine. I'm not sure because they never said that. But because it was already back in March, so people assume that there will be consequences similar to that. But I'm not sure whether it is. It's not, for some reason, it's not in my area where I live, but there are a few areas, 4 or 5 areas of the city. They're more densely populated, and maybe that's why there is enforcement.
Yes, we always go back to that density of the population.
But there is one interesting fact that every country has a different law when we talk about social distancing. Some are following 1 meter law, some are following 2 meters, some are following 10 meter, and so on and so forth. And I don't understand the virus is spreading across and symptoms are also quite similar. But why we have different laws in different countries at this point of time as well?
And who knows what the right distance is?
No one knows.
So that's why I'm telling you, when this aerosol theory is going to come, this distance theory is going to be knocked off. It's going to take a tumble, right? So that is why it is very important that we stay as far as away from each other as possible, right? Our hearts should be closer to each other, but physically we should be more distant with each other, right? And the other thing is to wear masks. That is simple logic, and try to stay indoors as much as possible. I'm not saying everyone will not be able to stay indoors. Acknowledge that there are people who will not have reserves. They will have to go for jobs because otherwise it's going to be catastrophe for them. They will die of hunger, right? So
Yes.
I'm not saying, or I'm not an antithesis to this policy of not going to work. What I'm trying to tell you is that we should be smarter with our own system, right? And where it is required urgently to go, there only we let people go. Rest of the places, there are a lot of things which you can do from home also.
Yes.
True.
But
So we
one
need
of the
to
things
understand.
about the economic inequality that we have in the United States is that the virus is hitting the lower the people closer to the poverty level because they don't have the jobs that you can do from home. They have to go out to do their jobs, and so they have to physically go and be with other people to do their jobs, which they must have, or they can't pay their rent, they can't feed their family. And so
what about the social programs? Remember, it was 1,200 a month that everyone was getting. Is it still in effect, or it's been stopped?
Well, I wish Kimberly was here to answer that, because there's a lot of consternation about who's actually getting the money, who is and who is not. And the idea, and Congress is going to pass another bill that will spend more money, but a lot of the money ends up in corporate hands or in people like Betty Davis, who is our Secretary of Education, who's a billionaire. So why is the money going to her? Why are we sending money to people who don't need more money, but we're not sending the money to people who desperately need it? So our whole system is illogical, and so we don't follow what would be common sense in how we distribute the money. It's not based on who needs it. It's on who could qualify, who can fill out the right form, or who knows somebody who can get their company approved. And this is a crazy system. It's not based on logic. So even if we pass $5 billion tomorrow, who's going to get that $5 billion? Who knows?
Yeah, that's.
I have a small answer for that basically. Whenever a company like Marriott or maybe top companies like Apple and Microsoft, they apply, they will get those funds hands-on. And whenever you and me apply, they will do all the due diligence because they don't know us and we don't have a credibility. But the problem is that right now the money is required by people who are below the poverty line and people who are in those areas. The rest people, they don't need money actually.
Yeah,
but
they don't need it. We make them jump through hoops to get it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one more interesting thing. I was reading this article, maybe I think a year or so back, and that article said that if you divide the money, whatever we have in the world, across each and every human being, so everyone will get around some $7.5 million. That's what that article said. I don't know about the correct information, but then they also said that smart people or who are already doing the business, they will get that money back after 1 month or 1 week because they are the one who are selling you all those services and essentials and all those things, and you end up buying a lot of things, and then they'll get the money back. So it's like a magnetic effect. And right now, also 3% of the people are managing all those big money in the world right now. So that's the part of the money thing. And I think Sasha knows.
He had a candidate running who got no traction whatsoever, and one of his ideas, which really appealed to me, was, why the United Auto Workers are not losing their jobs to immigrants.
Yeah.
Immigrants are doing the jobs that they wouldn't do or starting businesses that they wouldn't have started. The United Auto Workers were losing their jobs to automation. And also part of his platform was give everybody a certain amount of money guaranteed. And, when this country has the money to do that, but he got nowhere, no traction whatsoever.
But Jim, I think it was a platform of candidate for liberals, for Democrats, Young. That was his platform. Remember? of universal income, something
Yes,
like that.
we're talking about Andrew Yang, but
And be young, yeah, that's right. The only weakness, I believe, is that if that would happen, how would businesses find workers to hire? Nobody in his right mind will go to work anywhere because he has guaranteed income. And if he is not spending a lot of money and he's careful enough with his spending habits, and he can allocate at least a little bit part of that money to wise investments, and he's able to run them properly, there is no need for him to go to work anymore.
yes, but he also had a very good argument about that, and
Yes.
I should let him make that argument instead of me trying to make it for him. But the idea is to restructure our society so that we didn't have these people making so much money off of labor, and instead these people would be treated differently, and maybe the people that were at the very top, the very 1%, didn't have all the money, and they just had half of all the money. And then all that rest of that money that is in just a few hands would be spread out easily to everyone. And you would be doing work that you wanted to do. You would follow your passion.
No,
Yes.
I strongly disagree. People don't want to do any work. People are lazy by nature. People don't want to do anything whatsoever except eat, sleep, and sex. There are only three things that people want to do,
Yes.
nothing else.
Well, how do you explain me then?
What to explain?
What to explain? I'm so busy right now. I can't stand it sometimes. And I have plenty of money. I have plenty of food. I'm not going to talk to you about my sex life, but it's, all of my basic needs are met. And I still want to work. I still want to follow my passion. I want to make it just safe for everybody, everywhere.
You're mixing work and what it is. You're mixing with your personal endeavors, which you would like simply because of your education, your status, and so on. You want to pursue certain things, and thank God you have a freedom and means to pursue it. It's not work. I'm sorry.
That's correct.
Different. Okay.
So let's rephrase what the word work means. Let's redefine it. Because if I do gardening and I love gardening,
that's
why
not
can't I
work. No. Let's define. I will define it for you.
Okay.
The work is something what one has to do as a necessity to survive, to provide food for himself and his family. And that is a work. All the rest of it is pursued certain endeavors that you feel like and you like it, and you just have a luxury to
But
afford it.
what if everybody had enough to survive? What if everybody had enough to survive? Then they wouldn't have to work, but they could still pursue what they want to do.
Yes, but then it will be a death of all businesses. It will be a death of even Dr. Tulla will never find even people to assist him.
I think it would be a transformation and not a death.
Of what kind of transformation?
A transformation into a new society where everyone has their needs met.
Oh, yes. It was tried, you know what, I know a few countries, especially Russia, in 1917. It was tried. And you know what? All nations became slaves. Now
all nation was slaves. They started as slaves. They started as slaves. And I tell you, Americans are still slaves. We're indentured servants in the way we're structured right now.
But Jim, I must tell you, I'll interject at the moment. So yes, today only I read in one of the newspapers that due to this the universities in USA, especially the leading universities, have threatened a lawsuit against the president and his associates for passing that order of deportation of the students back to their countries. So, I mean, this can only happen in USA. I must compliment you for that. I mean, never have I heard this kind of thing in any part of any country in the world.
Yes,
So
I know.
That aspect.
This
that
is why
is
this
true
candidate.
capitalism.
This
True
guy.
capitalism in its right heart, right? So I mean,
Well,
it's not bad.
I don't describe myself as a capitalist. I describe myself as a mixed capitalist because I believe in competition, but I also believe in taking care of those who need help. Those are poor, infirm, then I have an obligation to help them if I am making my way in life.
But
I was amused. I was amused to see this. That I mean, I mean, the university is suing the
Yeah.
president and his associate. I mean, that is something we'll never hear in India. I
Yes.
mean, have you ever heard something like that, Ankit? All across the world, any
In
country,
India, what
anything
happens
like that.
is
In
that
Sasha,
so Dr. Tulla, I think we should tell what happens in India. In India, what happens is that if you are one of the top leaders at some decade, maybe in 60s or 70s, you still get, some kind of benefit from university. That happens in India.
It happens in the UK too. Yeah.
Really?
I think so. If I understood you correctly, they have guaranteed education.
It's not about education. It's about the money which they generate from those education universities, and they pay back to their leaders and trustees and all those stuff. And that's what
it is
happened.
the other way around. What he's trying to tell you is it's the other way around. Here, the universities are threatening the president against with a lawsuit that if you pass this, we are going to sue you for compensation.
Yes. But anyways, the whole idea is moot because the candidate got no traction whatsoever. So this is not going to happen in America. This is not going to happen in the United States. But he has a policy about automation is the problem, not for the workers, not the immigrants. And this made perfect sense to me. And if everybody had their basic needs met, then maybe they would have a more productive life. And that made sense to me too. Now, how the nuts and bolts are going to work, I can't answer that. I don't know all the answers. But it is not a communist platform. It is not.
So Sasha, Jim is talking about the millennials, right? He's talking about exactly the millennials. I mean, I wouldn't call Ankit a millennium, but people who are younger to him, he will absolutely understand what they do.
Yeah.
So they are people who will not want to work. See, the work culture has also changed, right?
Yes.
I'm sure, Ankit, you are seeing people who are much younger to you. You must be seeing that they do not work the entire day like we used to work. I mean, that long hours are gone now. So they will work 2 to 3 hours in a day and try to pump whatever their energy is within those 2-3 hours, wind up their work and go back.
Yeah.
So this is the new normal culture which is going to emerge over a period of time. So unfortunately, we have not seen that. Our parents have also not seen that. I mean, we were grinders, and I'm so sure Sasha would have worked his heart out when he was relatively very, very young, right?
I sweated,
so,
Brent. I sweated.
I'm sure you must have also done the same story. So that is what is happening. Over a period of time, things are changing. So whether we want them to change or not, they're going to change.
Yes. And we also have the millennials, we call them slackers because, everything is handed to them. And so they never had to work for anything. And so, but the society that this candidate was envisioning is something where your basic needs are met. If you want anything else, you must work for it. So it's
that's very interesting. What you said. Very interesting. Do you remember in the United States, just 12 years ago, 2008, 2007, you know what was happening?
Yes.
The bankers who were establishing the real estate loan bundles, they would come and they were getting huge premiums and perks. They were coming to somebody who is not working and who lives who knows where. And they said, oh, we'll give you money, you'll get your house.
Yes.
Now you're becoming part of society. Yes. Now you're going to be a homeowner.
Ah, yes.
Okay. So there's a small house, maybe a townhouse or something. It's worth maybe $200,000. Okay. He goes, I have no money to buy. I have absolutely no money. Don't worry, we'll give you enough money to buy it. I don't have down payment. I can't pay the mortgage. It doesn't matter. Right. Just come here. And what we are going to do, we will not give you $200,000. We will give you $250,000. So for $200,000, you'll buy the house. and we will arrange mortgage, and 50,000 cash right here. Just sign, and we'll give you cash $50,000.
And Sasha,
Wow.
I know the story. I know the story. You know when I sold most of my equities in the last 20 years? 2007. Because I could see this coming. Because it was unethical what they were doing. And so I got out of the stock market before the stock market plummeted. When all of that blew up. Because it was based on...
I'm not about investment right now. I would like to emphasize and remind you and others what people did with this money. So they were moving into a house now. It's a house now in their names with a mortgage of $200,000, and it's worth probably the same $200,000. They're taking now $50,000 cash. And what they were doing to do with this 50,000 cash, they would immediately, who will drive, who will fly, one place, Las Vegas. And in Las Vegas, their $50,000 were gone. Somebody would do it in 2 hours, somebody in 2 days, somebody in 2 weeks, but the 50,000 were gone. Now they're coming back, they're going to the same bank and say, we don't have money to pay. Why we gave you 50,000? 50,000. You know what? We were not lucky. We lost it all. No, maybe somebody was smart enough to hide it somewhere, but I'm not aware of even one case like this.
Well, so these are people that were uneducated. They were taking advantage of people who were uneducated.
Most people,
our education system is broken.
Don't overestimate people. People are uneducated, lazy, and you have to know that, because I mean you've been successful in life, so you have to know what people are about. You know what they are. There are exceptions, but not too many.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the things about making a new society that will happen. Because whether it's the virus that does it to us or whether it's whatever, we will be in a new environment, a new world, and we have to adapt.
Russia, I'll give you Russia 1917.
Let's let Ankit talk. I know all about Russia in 1917. Go ahead, Brandon.
So what I wanted to say is that the generation where I am now, after my generation, every 5 years the generation changes, and now I think it's like 2 and 3 years basically. Because if I talk to someone who is like 10 years younger to me, they talk about something else which I don't understand. And I am now not that old basically. And on the other hand, people who are elder to me, so from I'm like 37. So people who are like 45 and 55 and 65, they still look like from same generation. But the important part is that whenever those people were working, they work for some countries like 30, 40 years without looking for a change. If they joined a company at the age of 22 or 21, they end up working with them till 61. So that was a part of a culture where if you are stick to somewhere, if you're happy, you don't have that expectation that I have to go there and I have to $1 billion and $1 billion and all those stuff. Basically,
that was a social contract.
Yeah,
we call that the social contract.
Happy with your life, and then you are happy with where you are, and then your focus is on to get education and be natural and all those stuff. Now what happened is
my father.
And now what happened is every 6 months, because I take a lot of interviews across, and every 6 months you will find people changing the job because they are not happy. And that's why Sasha made the point that people don't want to work. And that's why they're looking for new jobs. And then they think that, okay, I'm not fit in this job as well. Now I have to change the job. And I know a lot of my family members, they work for a single company for 45 years, 50 years. Yes. And they never have any complaint. Yes. There is no complaint. So and they were loyal, and they were royal as well. They still believe in royalty and loyalty, but nowadays there is nothing. No one is loyal basically, and there is no ethics. There is no ethics.
What happened that happened. All my father's generation did the same thing. It worked very, very well. In my generation, people are getting to retirement age, and the pensions are bankrupt. The social contract has been broken.
I'll take your leave, Jim and Sasha and Ankit. And hopefully we'll see you again. God bless you. Take care. Good night.
Oh, it's so wonderful for you to join us.
Please continue. Please continue.
Thank you.